Welcome to Unmasking with Heather Diane, where we are peeling back the layers of trauma to rediscover self, and we are unmasking pain and reclaiming our peace. The right to write. Writing is not for the faint of heart, at least not in my experience. Perhaps the term writing is a bit vague or too broad. Let's try writing to heal is not for the weak. It involves diving deep into yourself, into your deep-rooted traumas, family dysfunction, and disabilities, at least in my journey. This process is not only difficult and painful on a personal level, but as you start to unpack your trauma and learn about triggers and emotional maturity, you start to see a new way of life. You learn that your reactions, both positive and negative, are directly tied to your ability to recognize how trauma has shaped your life and personal development. On my journey, I'm happy to report that I have an amazing group of friends and a few family members cheering me on. These are the people who know me, my story, my pain, and the battles I've fought to find healing and peace. A few individuals have cautioned me about the risks of sharing my life publicly, which led me to pause for about 6 months to ensure that this wasn't an ADHD hyperfocus or a passing project. However, during that time, the drive to write and the need to get it out of my head and onto paper only grew stronger and more urgent. I wish people could live inside my brain for just a few minutes to understand what it's like to have countless thoughts and ideas swirling around constantly. Now add constant sensory issues, tight clothes, itchy fabrics, overwhelming sounds, mixed with emotional sensitivities and dysregulation. That's what it feels like to live in my physical body. I've always felt a deep disconnect between my brain and my body, and my coordination is poor, making activities like sports and dance and even walking at times difficult and often painful. With repetition and hard work, I will eventually learn a routine. My muscle memory will kick in, but often I'm embarrassed by my abilities and quit to avoid these uncomfortable feelings. This is the disability side of ADHD and autism, where overwhelm and emotional dysregulation are always looming and ever present. We do whatever we can to ignore and avoid them. It is a ticking time bomb, waiting to explode and damage our relationships with others and with ourselves. If you've been reading my weekly posts, I thank you for your support and for taking the time to connect with my journey. As you know, I try to write content for everyone, even those quietly reading in the background. This includes both my free subscribers and those who choose to contribute financially. My weekly reading goal is twofold. The first part is educational and free for anyone wanting to learn more about neurodivergence, trauma, and the impacts they can have on daily life. The second part shares my personal experiences related to this week's theme or topic. This section is for my paid subscribers who value my work and believe my story is worth the price of a specialty coffee. Check out this post for a deeper understanding. The phrase right to write plays over and over in my mind. When I doubt whether to share a story or feelings, it's usually tied to people-pleasing tendencies and my fear of hurting or upsetting others, which I truly do not want to do. I write to heal, and I share because with each post I publish, I step out of a lifetime of hiding, of wearing masks, and living in shame. This process makes me a more present parent and friend, and the more I understand about how I think and feel, the more compassion I find for myself and others, and so I keep going. The right to write one's story is complicated. Our lives are intertwined with our families of origin, friends, and the families we create with children and life partners. Your family of origin is often defined as the family unit in which you were raised. This term is not to be confused with biological family. Dr. Gabor Mate. Everybody has a story. It's my favorite hashtag or byline because it is the truth. The more I share my story, the more I learn about other people, their pain, and their journeys. I don't consider myself or my story to be special or more important than anyone else's. It's simply my life, with all the ups and downs put into words. I try very hard not to hold grudges and to forgive people for past mistakes. However, I have also learned about accountability, and in my opinion, accountability is essential to healing broken relationships, or at least it's one of the first steps. When we can look at situations from the past, positive or negative, we can reflect on our own behaviors. We reflect on what we brought to the conflict or the argument. Being accountable for our actions and choices, especially when we didn't know better, is a major life skill. We need to understand that our mistakes and choices do not define us. We must show compassion to others and to ourselves whenever possible. I take this very seriously and have started to reach out to people from my past to apologize and take accountability for my actions and choices. For the most part, I'm happy to report that this has been a positive experience. Check out my Healing Amends series if you'd like to read more about these moments in my life. For the last couple of years, I avoided the voice in my head, urging me to write down my thoughts and memories. Fear of the unknown and of confronting deep trauma made me question both myself and my right to write. I've been told, mostly by family members, that I'm too sensitive, or that I remember things differently and incorrectly. These comments used to make me feel defensive, but after being diagnosed with ADHD and autism at the age of 49, I discovered that I am sensitive. I struggle with criticism and rejection, and often have big reactions when approached with a fault or mistake. So maybe I do remember things differently, because what tends to stay with me is not the event itself, but how I felt in that moment. Now I ask myself in these memories, especially the painful ones, could rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD, be at play? This insight is a crucial step for me and for those who love me to know about RSD. RSD is real, and it explains the deep shame I feel when I make a mistake or act in ways I later regret. As a child, unaware of ADHD or RSD, I lived under the constant feelings of disapproval and misunderstanding. Many of my students struggle with RSD too, and seeing their pain breaks my heart because I know they're feeling everything intensely. Let's look at RSD and what it actually means. Rejection Sensitivity Dysphoria, RSD. This term is used to describe a heightened sensitivity to rejection or criticism, leading to intense emotional reactions. It is not a formal mental health diagnosis, but it is a common characteristic, particularly among individuals with ADHD. People with RSD may experience overwhelming emotional pain in response to even minor rejections or criticisms. They may react suddenly and emotionally, which can be overwhelming for themselves and others. RSD can affect relationships, work, and overall well-being, and may contribute to burnout in people with ADHD. It's often associated with a strong desire for acceptance and validation. Learning about RSD helped me to better understand myself and my memories. Maybe I was too sensitive in certain situations. I may remember past moments with intense and often painful clarity. When someone tries to help or offer suggestions, I often misread them as criticisms, and I see the person as being mean. What have I learned? That there is truth on both sides of most situations. Everyone remembers events with their own emotional lens. For me, memories don't just come with facts. They come with intense feelings of both joyful moments and the painful ones. I remember how each moment felt, which is a gift when recalling joy, but a challenge when navigating family dysfunction. I used to feel deeply hurt and angry when someone would tell me I remembered things differently or wrong. I interpreted it as them accusing me of lying. I now understand that I remember the feelings, those deep, soul-level emotions, more than the facts. My therapist and I have spent a considerable amount of time exploring RSD, as it is the root of my past and present conflicts. The greatest gift has been understanding that this is just how I'm wired. It means I may overreact to criticism and experience intense feelings of rejection. It's part of my disability, and it's part of what makes me who I am. Anyone who truly loves me must learn about ADHD and autism. Without that knowledge, it's like trying to build IKEA furniture without the instructions. Understanding RSD is essential in any neurodivergent relationship. My therapist helped me realize it doesn't matter if others see a situation differently. If they don't experience RSD, they'll never understand its power. To love and understand me, you have to educate yourself on my disabilities. Without this knowledge, you will never truly know or love me. My beauty lies in all of these complexities. And while I may not be simple to love, I'm beginning to believe I'm worth the effort. The people who love me best understand these struggles. They make space for my feelings, and to me, this is the truest reflection of love. Traumatized people chronically feel unsafe inside their bodies. The past is alive in the form of gnawing interior discomfort. Their bodies are constantly bombarded by visceral warning signs, and in an attempt to control these processes, they often become experts at ignoring their gut feelings and in numbing awareness of what is played out inside. They learn to hide from themselves. Page 97 in The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel A. van der Kolk. I wish I could say that my neurodivergence traits were where the complexities of Heather end, but unfortunately, we are just getting started. Last year, I was also diagnosed with complex PTSD, C-PTSD. When I first heard the term, I asked what the difference the C made. I'd already self-diagnosed myself with PTSD years earlier. I learned that the key difference is the longevity or the frequency of the trauma. PTSD often stems from a single traumatic event, a moment of intense trauma that has a lasting impact. C-PTSD develops from prolonged or repeated trauma, often spanning multiple events that may not seem directly connected but produce a similar emotional impact. The diagnosis adds yet another layer to understanding me. Many of the symptoms or triggers of C-PTSD are closely mirrored of those of RSD, adding another level of emotional sensitivity. The overlap with ADHD, C-PTSD, and RSD is undeniable. Let's dive in. Key features of C-PTSD. Prolonged trauma. C-PTSD is often linked to ongoing and repeated traumatic experiences, such as childhood abuse, domestic violence, or war. Emotional dysregulation. Individuals with C-PTSD may struggle to manage intense emotions, experience mood swings, and have difficulty regulating impulses. Relationship difficulties. C-PTSD can impact social interactions, leading to difficulty forming and maintaining healthy relationships. Negative self-perception. C-PTSD can contribute to feelings of worthlessness, shame, guilt, and a distorted self-image. Dissociation. Some individuals with C-PTSD may experience dissociation, a sense of detachment from oneself or the surrounding world. Physical symptoms. Physical symptoms like headaches, dizziness, and chest pains can also present. Suicidal ideation. C-PTSD can be associated with the increased risk of suicidal thoughts and behaviors. I have experienced all of these symptoms many times throughout my life. I just didn't know that there was a term, a word, that explained my reactions and feelings. I'm not broken. I'm just built in an incredibly sensitive way. What I have found most interesting is that part of me, my sensitivity, is what people either deeply love or strongly dislike. I know that might not make a lot of sense, but let's get personal. Let's explore how RSD and C-PTSD have affected my life and relationships, and how therapy, living in truth, and healing has transformed my life journey. To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. Oscar Wilde. The first time I heard the term RSD, Rejection Sensitivity Dysphoria, I was stunned. I had never connected so completely to a description of how I experienced life. I hated. To keep reading or listening, consider buying me a cup of coffee for $5 a month and become a paid subscriber, a new supportive friend. Healing deserves depth, and depth takes support. Become a paid subscriber to continue unmasking with me. Access my full weekly posts with an audio option and help keep this safe, validating space alive. Your support helps sustain this work for you, for me, and for every soul who's healing and still finding their voice. And if this is where you leave today, I thank you for taking the time to connect with one of my stories of unmasking, and I truly hope to see you again soon. Take care and keep going. Everybody has a story. Unmasking isn't about becoming someone new. It's about coming home to who you've always been. Thank you for listening today. You are doing the hard work, and it does matter. Keep going. This has been Unmasking with Heather Diane.